Hey guys, so today we are answering a subscriber question, and the question in question was, Frederick, how do I make myself attractive on the job market as a software developer? So let's get into it. Well, this one should be fairly straightforward, hopefully. So number one, be a software developer. It's actually that simple. And now I'm talking about a real software developer. I'm talking about somebody who has the actual, not kind of maybe took one boot camp or something. I'm talking about somebody who actually knows how to write software at a professional level. That is going to, it's fairly easy to get a job as a software developer if you actually know what you're doing and you actually have a good understanding of it. So when it comes to making yourself sought after, really knowing your fundamentals and really understanding the industry is going to be the best thing. I mean, years of experience to a certain degree, of course. I mean, ideally, like the most popular software developers are between the ages of 25 to around 40. And, ideally they should have more than a few years of experience. The sweet spot is roughly 5 years-ish. If you have that amount of time, it's you're in pretty high demand. But you also, of course, need to make sure that your knowledge is, well, that you actually know software development, and though you don't have there are a lot of developers, and I do this because they call themselves developers, and although technically they know some basic programming, it is not the same thing as what the industry is looking for in general. I've met tons of people who only know how to use Ruby on Rails, or only know how to use, say, jQuery or Drupal or something of this nature, and that is not a professional software developer. That is somebody who knows a specific tool and is very good at that specific tool, and that's great, but that's not usually what the industry is looking for. The industry is looking for software developers, people who know how to write code from scratch, build any system that they pretty much need, and take it from there. That is what most people are looking for. The same thing when people are talking about front-end developers, and we can argue as much as we want about it, but usually the job postings include such things as Angular, React, or something of this nature, CSS, JavaScript, all of this good stuff. It is not about design in general terms. It is more about having good, strong coding understanding of code, and that is the general, like the red thread you should take away from this. Knowing how to actually write software is the way to go. And that is pretty much it right there. Other things that you can do in order to make yourself attractive in the job market is to make sure that you have a CV that is well structured. It is important that because the CV is the first step. CV is everything when you first start. Like, that's how people find you. That's their first impression of you that your future employer is going to get. So it's a very good idea to invest time in making it look nice and be well structured and so forth. And it's also a very good indicator to the skill level that you have. A classic example that I see quite often is that junior developers will, and people who are even people who don't really know how this industry works, they will put every single skill they have on their CV, and all that communicates to the people doing the hiring is that you don't know what you're doing, because not everything, I mean, nobody cares what operating system you use on your laptop. No one, pretty much. And if you list that, that is a small tell that, all right, maybe you're not, well, maybe you're just listing everything, right? So think a little bit about that. Yeah, it's a good idea to try to structure your CV in the same way as most other software developers, because that gives a bit of an indicator of trust, at least. And apart from that, I would say, I would say the same thing as for most industries. You need to have the relevant tools under your belt, know what's relevant for whatever job that you are looking for, and there's not much more magic to it. Having the social skills to sell to behave well, and make sure that you know how to act in a job interview, and then you have the code tests and all that good stuff that you need to pass. But in general terms, making yourself attractive as a developer comes down to relaying trust that you know what you're doing, and that you can prove that you know what you're doing. Words are just words. If you put down a CV where you mostly talk about what a nice person you are and things like that, that's great, but most companies are not looking for that necessarily. Like what they're interested in is if you have the skills to do the thing that they need you to do. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to make yourself more attractive as a software developer on the job market, number one is that you actually need to know how to write software, not use React, or not just know how to use some abstraction or some specific tool, unless of course you're looking for jobs that exclusively use that tool. But I've seen it more than once where people who only work in, say, Drupal try to reach out to other companies, IT companies who do real professional grade software development, and they can't get the job because they simply don't have the coding skills to work there. It's not personal, it's just that they know how to use that tool, and as soon as we ask them to write a code test or something else, they pretty much can't do it because they have no idea, they don't actually understand software development. So that is number one. Make sure that you actually understand what it means to work as a professional software developer if that is your goal. If it's not your goal, then you can do pretty much what you want. Like, there's tons of other tools out there. And apart from that, making sure that you have a well-structured CV, it's also important. And finally, make sure that you have the social skills to actually behave to act appropriately in a job interview, because social skills count for a lot when people are making the call, are they going to hire you or they're not going to hire you. Because in my experience at least, and although this may or may not be unfair depending on who you are, most companies make a call based on gut feeling. It very rarely comes down to just like some objective evaluation of you and the testing process. At the end of the day, most companies hire on gut feeling. So if you can leave your employer with a good gut feeling, that's going to count for a lot. So the first step is to have a good CV and have the skills to actually get through the hiring process. And then if you have the personality to sell yourself, quote unquote, well enough, and you leave your company with a good gut feeling, they are most likely going to hire you. Have a great day.